to you from Israel in the Galilee. And today is the 11th of June. It's 9:41 in the morning. And it's going to be warm today, not for us stifling. It's 82, 94. Well, it keeps creeping up. It was going from 92, and then tomorrow 97, then 104, 105, 105, 100, 97. So we're in the punishment weather full time now. It's just hot and ugly every day. It's, when it gets, to 100, the streets are pretty empty, reminiscent of a blizzard in New York, I got my tomato juice back. They were out of stock for a few days. And then they only sent me 2 containers of it. But I got another order coming and I'll get some more. I don't know why they ran out. Tonight is a rabbinical Talmudic holiday, not a real holiday based on God's Bible calendar, called Shavuot, the 50 days, and tomorrow is a legal holiday in Israel. Will our lovely neighbors attack us more fervently on this holiday? Probably. I'm not sure. Sometimes they don't. It's not really one of the big high holidays. They may attack, I don't know. I don't really know what's going to happen with that, but they're attacking fervently from Lebanon all the time. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the intel, as they like to call it, getting my perspective, having lived in Israel for many years, as to what's going on in the Middle East. And there's a lot of events I'm sure most of you are not aware of. Like a UK ship was hit like 2 days ago, and they're moving the Eisenhower aircraft carrier out of Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, under escort with a aircraft carrier from Italy with a full flotilla of several warships with it. So I don't know what happened to the destroyer that also got hit, where we were having videos of flames in the destroyer. I don't know what happened to that. We're not getting any intel on that, and I believe the aircraft carrier Eisenhower was severely hit on the deck, and it's probably not repaired, but there was video showing a hole in the deck of about 25, 30 feet, and initial reports came out that there were 16 dead and 34 wounded, and then they just disappeared. And then the aircraft carrier Eisenhower was moved several hundred kilometers into the port at Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, so I don't think it was in great shape. So if there's a hole on the deck, the boat can navigate the waters. It's not going to take water on the deck unless they're in a very, very big storm. I imagine the deck is probably at least 60 feet high, if not 70 or 80. And that would, and the way they build these aircraft carriers is they come up like this. So the waves hit it, it's going to be hard to wash over the deck. They do that probably so big waves, occasionally you get what's called a rogue wave. I was on a cruise ship once and got hit with a rogue wave out of nowhere. It was a bright sunny day, people were out at the pool on the deck. I think it was a sea day. And all of a sudden the wave came and went over the deck and it hit people and moved them around, and bathing suits came off people and stuff like that. It was pretty bizarre. I don't think anybody suffered anything other than maybe a little bruise or scrape from being moved around by the wave, and embarrassed because bathing suits were coming off, mostly the tops or something. I was inside. My wife was on the deck and saw it. And that was quite high up, you know. That would have been probably more than 60 feet, maybe 90 feet up. I don't, but you know, the boat goes like this, and you know, it can happen, okay? I was on a cruise ship another time when the computer went nuts, and the computer thought something was coming at the boat and veered sharply, like collision alert, to get out of the way. And it threw the people around, you know. So they shut the computer off at that point and just navigated the ship manually until they could figure out what happened. So I don't think the aircraft carrier is going to be in any realistic danger of having water come in. The other thing they could do is cover the hole with, you know, superficial covering like various tarps or boards or I don't know what, you know, to, you know, keep it from really taking water. But they're just going to keep it out of rough seas. They're not going to go anywhere where the waves are going to be more than 20 feet. 20, 25-foot waves are going to do absolutely nothing in terms of getting in through the deck, the top of the boat where the planes take off. I expect they probably moved a lot of the planes off the aircraft carrier, and the pilots probably flew them to another base, and they're going to move the aircraft carrier through the Red Sea to the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean, and then probably take it someplace in Europe for repairs. My guess. So there's a lot of mysteries about this. Okay. Why did it go to Saudi Arabia and stay in a port after going a few hundred kilometers to get there? Why did they need the Italian aircraft carrier group to do an escort to get it out of there? It could be that the missile defense systems are not effective against the Houthi attacks with drones and missiles, and for some reason they feel if the Italian aircraft carrier comes with, it probably has at least 3 or 5 escort vessels. The extra escort vessels with their anti-missile defenses combined probably give it a reasonable chance of surviving. The Italians may have a different missile system than the American aircraft carrier group. I don't know these things. It also would have deterrent fear value because the Italian aircraft carrier probably at least has 40 or 50 planes, and they could be overhead. Not all of them, but they might have, you know, 4 or 6 flying overhead during the Red Sea, and they could help interdict, especially with slow drones, reduce the swarm attack. You know, they shoot air-air missiles at the drones. They could also, you know, well, that would be what they would do. So we're not going to get the full story of this one for probably ever. That's just been hush-hush. Eventually they're going to notify the survivors of the dead and the wounded. I mean, it's going to get out, you know. They probably are telling the people that if they talk about what happens, they're going to go to jail for 20 years. So it's weird, you know. But we're not getting the straight scoop there, and that's something that worried the Pentagon big time. So we got to take note that they didn't keep the ship at the pier or the port in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, until American warships could come and escort it. They wanted that ship out of there fast. So they got the Italians to go through there. At, I would say, great risk to them. Because the Houthis would 100% consider the Italians in conspiracy to help America and would attack them. Why they didn't get attacked, I don't know. But we'll see. Maybe they're not out of range yet, but they probably are. Okay, Then we're going to go into Bible study, and what we're going to cover today is the end of the age. And I'm going to show you how to identify the end of the age very concretely, where you're not going to have any doubts about it. And you're going to see how very close we are to it. So it'll be a good study, and I'm going to do some praise now, being a Bible believing site, and then we'll flow into the Bible study after the intel. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 So also worthy of note, a British warship was hit, I think 36 or 48 hours ago by the Houthis too. And I understand it was a successful hit. And also within that time frame, 2 civilian maritime vessels were hit by the Houthis, and there were fires on the ship. They may have controlled the fires. So the Houthis are, according to the Americans, I would think they're out of control. And Biden has just a extremely massive problem with the Houthis. There's not really much they can do to Israel at this point in time. I'm going to go in and put a couple of posts up in the chat. No, I don't think the ship's got blindness. I think the ship's got holes in the deck, and I saw the pictures of the destroyer, I believe it was, getting hit, and there was big flames. We're not hearing anything about this destroyer. It was there. They said, the Houthis said they hit it, and now we don't hear a thing about it. It could have sunk. I don't know. Okay? Maybe it too is still at the port in Jeddah. It may not be seaworthy. I have no idea. I don't know. It just disappeared off the media. Now, if you want to get the news you're not going to get in the media, subscribe. It's free. And hit the notification bell so when I do emergency live streams, you'll get noticed. And please hit the like button. It helps me with the algorithm with YouTube, and that helps spread the true gospel to other people. Okay, I'm going to briefly put a post. I'm just going to do one post. It'll be very fast, a few seconds. I'll pin it up at the top. Almost done, guys. Just a few seconds and I'll be done with this. Okie dokie, I'm done. Alright. So, let's cover the serious stuff. Putin. Putin has threatened a number of things recently. Now you have to understand, Putin is in trouble. HIMARS missiles are landing in Russia with regularity. Last night, the Ukrainians took out more than one S-400. I don't know if it was 2 or 3. It was more than one, I understand. S-400 warning radar system. Well, the S-400 is an anti-aircraft, anti-missile, anti-drone system that Russia has, and the HIMARS are successfully taking them out, and they took more out. The amount of S-400s that Ukraine took out right now might be as high as 7. I'm quite certain it's over 5, or at least 5. Now, these things are Russia's sort of early warning because they're close to Ukraine, and when they go out, it makes Russia more vulnerable. For what? F-16s. There are 3 Ukrainian pilots that finished American training on F-16s and have F-16s in Ukraine. They have not, to the best of my knowledge, attacked inside Russia. Maybe they're attacking Russian troops. I don't know. I just don't know. More F-16s are coming fairly quickly, not months away, days away, I assume. And there are other F-16 pilots that have completed training that are, so to speak, without a horse, no F-16. And these planes, NATO plans to house in NATO countries near Ukraine. So what they're trying to do, first, what are they trying to avoid? They're trying to avoid Russia destroying the F-16s that were given to Ukraine by attacking the fields, the hangars, and things like that. The thought being Ukraine cannot defend against the Russian missile swarm attack, drones, missiles, aircraft, artillery, whatever, right? So they think it's dangerous to do that. So what they have cooked up is a scenario where they're going to house or hangar the planes in other countries. What other countries? Well, Poland would be the obvious choice because it's next door to Ukraine. Okay? Maybe Romania, but Poland would probably be a number 1 choice. Poland is a NATO nation, and if Putin attacks inside Poland, the all for one, one for all clause of NATO kicks in, and all NATO has a responsibility to treat the attack on Poland the same as an attack on their homeland, and then Putin's in a tizzy. So what these NATO nations were concocting is they're going to have Ukraine pilots fly out of NATO countries planes given to Ukraine. F-16s. Now France is giving them Typhoon fighters, which are pretty good. Some of these countries have what's called Euro fighters. They haven't given those over as far as I know. F-16s, the later versions, are pretty darn good, and I don't think Putin can handle them. And I think Putin knows it. The other day, Ukraine tagged an Su-57 Russian jet. That's their most advanced jet. Took it down. I think with a ground-to-air missile. So they figure if they keep the F-16s in a country like Poland or maybe 1 or 2 other countries, then Putin won't attack the planes there. The Ukraine pilots can take off from there, attack Russia, and come back there. So Russia said that if these planes are kept inside another country, NATO or otherwise, and are being used to attack Russian military in Ukraine or elsewhere, or I'm sure Mother Russia, he will consider them legitimate targets for war and attack the planes inside these countries. Now, you gotta understand what a mess this is. How would he attack them? Well, there's basically 4 ways. One, go in by ground. I think you can forget that one. Another way is drones. That could be one way. Missiles, the most likely. Or aircraft launching missiles or trying to bomb the planes. Not so sure he's going to risk the planes, but the planes could get close to the border of Poland without crossing it and launch missiles. Then there's always the remote possibility using naval vessels, but I don't think it's going to come to that. So he would probably launch missiles at them from Russia or Ukraine, either from aircraft or from the ground or both. The idea would be to do a swarm attack. So some of the missiles get through and destroy the F-16s. Putin's hope here is that he will scare the NATO countries from doing this, thus causing the jets to be hangared or stored in Ukraine, and it would be 3 or 4 times easier for him to destroy them inside Ukraine than if they were in other countries. And then he doesn't have the risk of a NATO confrontation, because Ukraine's not in NATO. It's likely that Putin will back down on this. Putin makes a lot of threats, okay, and doesn't go through. But you must understand now Putin's back is to the wall. And there's going to be a day in the very near future when his position is going to change out of desperation and he's going to come out swinging. And that's going to be to test the mettle of NATO and see if they really want to take him on, or are they going to just ignore his attacks or do superficial counterattacks or come after him whole hog. They don't know. He doesn't know. NATO probably doesn't know. Now, there's another threat that Putin made, and this other threat, I would say I'm 99% certain Putin is going to go through with. Bombing the NATO countries, I'm not so sure he's really going to do that right now today, but that could change. But his other threat, I'm almost 100% certain that he's going to go through with it. And I'll tell you what that is. Putin is taking a position diplomatically, stating that Ukraine's his enemy, and the Americans and NATO, other, well, I guess just them, maybe some EU country, I'm not sure, are giving arms and weapons to this Ukraine to be used against Russia. So Putin says, I'm going to go tit for tat, and I'm going to begin giving weapons to the enemies of my enemy, calling America and NATO his enemy. So the countries that Putin is probably and likely to give the missiles to is North Korea. I'm sorry, let me see what this is. It might be important. But Yeah, everybody's in, I guess. Beulah's in, Mommy's in there. I did not. Over where? I see. I see. All right, I'm on the air. Okay, bye. My wife told me she's nearby the house and 15, 20 minutes by car on slow roads. And she said a missile barrage came in recently and the Iron Dome took it down. She was rather shaken. Might want to pray for her. Okay, so the countries that either Cuba or Russia said he's going to give them to, or it's thought that he was going to give it to, is North Korea. Now, you have to understand, South Korea fired warning shots at North Korean soldiers yesterday. Why? They crossed the border into South Korea. That's a probe. They want to see, they either sent dumbbell soldiers they don't care about, or they sent well-trained commandos, probably well-trained commandos. Do some reconnaissance, test, and probe the defenses of South Korea. This is a big-time, dangerous thing. Okay, so we got North Korea Putin giving weapons to Venezuela, Cuba, Yemen, Iran, Serbia, Nicaragua, and Mexico. I would also add into this Lebanon for sure. He's already giving weapons to them. And probably Syria and Iraq. Yeah, I'm sure I know he's giving weapons to Syria already. So, the Russian fleet is off the coast of Florida now, kind of a distance from the shore from where Trump's Mar-a-Lago is, of all crazy things. How about that? Roughly near Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Now, Russia is saying that, I think the name of the city that's in direct line with the Russian ships is Marathon, Florida. I can check it in my telegram. Let me see. I put it up earlier today. It's, I don't know the exact mileage, but it seems they're pretty distant. But they're not 25 miles, they're further than that. But that could change. A Russian submarine that can launch missiles pulled into Cuba, and I think another warship from Russia. But definitely the submarine pulled into Cuba. Now, Cuba's 90 miles from the tip of Florida, the Florida Keys, which, if you don't know much about the Florida Keys, there's not much there. It's a bunch of little islands connected by a bridge that looks like a highway. And they have small communities in these islands. The big one is Key West. That's the largest island at the very tip of it, furthest from American mainland. And that is, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 miles across or something, 4 miles or 2 miles. It's not very big. It has a number of restaurants, bars, discos, stores, beaches, resorts, things like that. A lot of the people that live down there are fishermen. Many would be retired. They would go there, buy a house, which is basically on a pier or right by the water. They'd get a boat dock, have a small fishing boat, and that would be their life. And when the storms come, they're in grave risk in the Florida Keys because the waves could wash right over them. So they evacuate them. It happens every several years. And the smart ones get out, 2 or 3 days before The not so smart ones wait a day till they make certain that the storm's going to hit them. And then they got to go spend many hours on this bridge highway to get out of there. I thought of moving down there 20 or so years ago, and I spoke to people living there that were renting houses, and they said to me, "Oh, you don't want to bring things like your good furniture and your pictures and things like that, because if a storm comes, they'll get destroyed." So most of them didn't live here all year round. They probably went in the winter when they came down from the north or northwest or northeast or something. They probably came down around November, and they probably went back around March or April. And they would be warm, and they would go fishing and stuff like that. And it's a beautiful place, but I elected against it. There wasn't very much to do. You're not going to have really fine restaurants there. You're going to have like Subway, maybe Fridays, stuff like that. McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Hut, things like that. So I didn't see any great advantages in going down there at all. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Not at all. So I skipped it, Once I was on a cruise ship that docked there, it went down from Orlando to the Keys and docked for the day. I didn't even get off the boat. What was I going to look at? Shops selling t-shirts and hats. Didn't even bother. So that's really where he can hit. Maybe he's got missiles that can get up to Miami Beach or Fort Lauderdale. This I don't know. We could get an idea. Let's take a look. Let's run Fort Lauderdale to Fort Lauderdale is about 45 minutes by car north of Miami. Let us see. Oh, these sites are just sucker bait sites. Let me try to search a little differently. Let's try Miami. Well, Miami is 264 miles. That's a longer shot by a lot than the Florida Keys, which is a fairly worthless target. The Coast Guard's down there, maybe the Navy, they got a few boats down there. There's not a whole lot going on there. So Fort Lauderdale would probably be another, it would probably increase the distance up to about 300 miles. Now, cruise missiles can go that far, but they're easy to take out. So he could hit up into Miami. That would be a punishing target. Let's see where military bases are in Florida. They got a reserve base down at Homestead Air Reserve Base that's in South Florida. Everything else is way up higher, quite a bit, like, 150 miles up higher. So the likelihood of him getting successful hits from Cuba to the real serious military bases like Jacksonville is all the way up towards the top of the state, and that would be probably a 200 miles or more, 250 miles from Miami. So that would be a questionable shot even for a cruise missile. And then in the Gulf region, they have some big, the Panhandle, the Gulf of Mexico reaches the top of Florida over there. They got a rather good sized military base, Air Force, and Navy is up there. So the bases are not really in Miami. So that's probably done intentionally because of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So it's not going to be an easy shot for Russia to get up into the military bases, okay? Population centers would be easy. Could he hit the amusement parks, Universal Studios, Disney World, which is near the ocean around Orlando? It's really around a city called Kissimmee. It'd be a hard shot, but his cruise missiles would reach it, and maybe he has other missiles that might reach it. So he might be able to get up there. Of course, if the submarine goes off the coast of Florida like it is now and travels up north, it could be a shot of that big Jacksonville Navy base. That's a big one. Now, the Americans are going to have submarines watching the Russian fleet, and if they start launching missiles, they're going to take the boats out if they can. They'll attack the boat with torpedoes, they'll attack the boat with anti-ship missiles launched from the submarine underwater, and they will call airstrikes in rapidly to shut the missile launching down as quick as they can. I would say that Putin's ships that attempt to do this would be destroyed probably within minutes. They would throw the kitchen sink at these ships as soon as the launches begin. Their priority would be undoubtedly to shut down the launchers. They don't want to get hit anymore. Putin knows this, and a submarine can fire generally about 16 missiles before it has to reload the tubes, and reloading the tubes on a submarine is time consuming. They're vertical launch tubes. It's not going to take 5 minutes, And the submarine has to get out of there quickly because they'll know the launch site. They can go about 40 feet under the water and launch from there. They can't go 400 or 500 feet and launch. That doesn't work. So the submarine is normally not going to fire 16 tubes at once. It may be able to do it in relatively rapid succession. So maybe in 15 minutes it gets all 16 out, or maybe 10 minutes. That might be enough for them to get away. And the submarine may just head back to Russia. It may not stay in the area. Now the other Russian vessels got a problem, because they're going to get impounded by the Americans or sunk. The next thing that would happen is America would invade Cuba, which would be child's play, to make sure this doesn't happen again. It'd be nothing. It's a few thousand soldiers and they got it. It would take them 3 to 4 hours to conquer Cuba if there was any resistance. Oh, and Russia and China would take them to the UN, and there would be a big stink and all that, but America's not going to let Russia stay there and pound them with missiles from Cuba, from boats or land or whatever. They're not going to put up with it. So Putin is more than likely not putting the ships there to launch an attack on America at this time. He intends to keep them there all summer. So he's waiting for the big attack on America. And then he'll go to work. And depending on how the politics blow, he might move another 4 or 5 ships into the area there. That's not good for America. But the threat that Putin will fulfill is giving weapons to the enemies of his enemies, America and NATO. And I told you what those countries were. He hasn't begun to do this yet, but I wholeheartedly believe he will. His statement was, we're going to give them weapons just like NATO and America give our enemies weapons, and if these countries decide to use those weapons against America and NATO, that's their business, not mine. So he's trying to do what America and NATO did with Ukraine. He's trying to do that to America and NATO. And his position is going to be, when you give weapons to Ukraine, you take the posture that's not declaring war on us, so I'm taking the same posture against you. Now, Mexico. We know that in the invasion of the daughter of Babylon, Mexico's going to knock the wall down, from Jeremiah 50:51. Now, Putin said Mexico is an ally of theirs. Now, through Mexico come all the sleeper agents. So, Mexico's a dirty dog to America, like Egypt was or is to Israel. Of course, Mexico can stop the flow of illegals into America. They don't want to. Okay? In the countries from Mexico to Argentina, the ones that are in the drug business, which is a lot of them, the governments are the cartel. They're not controlled by the cartel, they are the cartel. They use squeaky clean political figures to run them, but they are the cartel. The cartels have grown so rich over the years that they're up in the many billions and billions of dollars, and they got budgets like a country. You know, they're huge. So they have, I would say, at least 30 years, maybe 40 years, been running the presidents. It's their people. It's not that they control them. They put them into office. It's their people. Look, when the cartel guys in these Latin American countries travel around, this is what it looks like. They have bodyguards, okay, and they have armored cars. Depending on what the trip involves, you know, how high the exposure is. If the guy's going to a doctor someplace or a clinic, you know, he might go with 2 cars of bodyguards. It's a discreet trip and he's not expecting any problems, you know. But if he was going to go to a nightclub, a restaurant, a concert, a mall in a larger city, he'd probably go with about 6 carloads of bodyguards plus his own vehicle. Several of these cars would look identical to the vehicle he's in, like they'd be red Chevrolet SUVs or GMC Suburbans SUVs. They'd all look identical. Okay, so if you were going to hit them, you wouldn't know who you're hitting. The bodyguards would be legal. They would not be cartel members with criminal histories, all the tattoos on their heads and eyelids, you know, none of that. It'd be guys that were ex-military, highly paid, okay, probably special forces in various militaries, and they would probably just have pistols. Maybe if it's illegal, they would have semi-automatic rifles. They wouldn't have any illegal machine guns or RPGs. They would have what the law allows for. Now, frequently these security companies can get permits to get full auto weapons. So then they might have full, but any weapons they have are going to be legit, okay? And let's say the guy is going to go shopping and then go to a restaurant with his wife or girlfriend or whatever, you know. So they'll pull up by the mall. 1 or 2 cars of bodyguards will get out first, as discreet as possible. It won't be that discreet. And then the principal will get out with his family or wife or daughters or whatever, right? And they'll surround him with what they call rings or layers. They'll have usually 3 rings. They'll have, for a high profile. If it's a low profile guy, 1 ring. If it's medium, they'll have 2 rings. The serious stuff, 3. The 3rd ring will be far away from him, maybe 100 yards, 60 yards, 100 yards, and they'll be scanning the crowd avidly, looking for somebody acting nervous, or, you know, the proverbial raincoat on a hot July day to conceal the gun, you know. And they'll look for guys that look like they're cartels, hanging around trying to be inconspicuous and stuff like that. If they see anything suspicious, they'll get on their communications and get the guy out of there. They're not gonna go have a comfort. They see 3 or 4 cartel guys that are obviously cartel guys hanging around in the area looking innocent. They're just gonna tell the principal to get back in the car, and they'll go back with them, and they'll just get out of there. They're a little bored. They're not going to go put the principal in the armored car and then engage them. What's the point of that? It's just going to draw heat. It's stupid. don't want any confrontation. They just want him out of there. Okay? So the outer ring, and then you have an inner ring, which is maybe 10 meters from the immediate guys that are right near him, you know? So if you want to run at him to get a close shot, you got to go through 2 layers. You got to go through the medium layer. It's just not going to be easy. These are all ex-military or ex-police. They know what they're doing. They're going to take them out. And the last layer would be the last resort. The guy's right on top of him, and they're going to block him from bullets, and they're going to shoot, and they're going to be, while they're shooting, they'll be trying to get him out of there undercover. Stuff like this. Very, very hard to hit these guys. The way you probably would want to hit them would be it would be a massive effort, you know. I've seen this. I mean, they come with 6 cars. You'd have to assemble 50 or 60 guys and come after them with RPGs, machine guns, armor-piercing rounds. It's ridiculous. What they try to do is roadblock the convoy. They try to break the convoy up. So 2 or 3 cars of bodyguards are cut off by a big garbage truck or a big truck, and then they try to go behind it and push another 2 cars of bodyguards away. So they leave the principal's vehicle isolated. He can't go forward, he can't go back, and then people will probably get out of the cars and start shooting armor-piercing or 50 caliber rounds at the car to kill the guy. Now, that's why when you see them driving, they stay 6 inches away from each other. These people are highly trained. They drive at reasonably decent speeds, just inches away from the guy in front of them. So it's not so simple to get them, you know, cordoned off. You gotta ram them, you know? It's not easy with these people, and they don't have cars that are going to stop a 50 caliber, unless maybe now today they do. You can get it done. They might. You're talking glass is going to be 4 inches at least, so you don't have any go down windows. And you know, if you're using a Suburban, you're just basically going to get some 8, 10, 12, 14 ply tires that'll support the car for a few miles if the tire is blown out, okay? So they're just worried about getting maybe 5 miles away or 10 miles away, and then they're going to abandon that and get out of there, you know? But you don't want to have tires that get shot out and you go flat and you can't do nothing. So they use these kind of tires. They're expensive. And then they're going to beef up the shock absorbers, change the springs, change the brakes, work on the cooling system, and all kinds of things like this, and the drive shaft, and you know, so the car is going to be like a fortress, you know. Now it's probably not going to be like what a Biden has, but you can go to companies like BMW and Mercedes and buy an armored car from them that has steel plates in the floor that'll resist small explosive charges. You can have air tanks, so you could seal the atmosphere inside the car in case they use some other chemical agent. And you get, you know, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 minutes worth of air in the car just to get out of there, you know. And they could, you know, depending what you want to do, I mean, you could put a window in an SUV, and inside the window where nobody could see it, you could have a 1/2-inch steel plate, and I don't think your 50 caliber is going to do too well with a 1/2-inch steel plate, hardened steel. If it did, and they test these, if it did, then you get a 3/4 inch. If that doesn't work, you get a 1 inch. You just keep putting it in, you know, until you stop it, you know. But, you know, a 50 caliber rifle is 34 pounds. It's huge. So you can't really walk around the street with these things. You know, it's an unusual thing. Political people will have cars armored against 50 caliber. That's not unusual, you know. And now we've seen people develop 20 millimeter sniper rifles. That's a 1 pound projectile. This sucker is probably at least 4 or 5 times more powerful than a 50 caliber. That I don't think you could stop. I don't know how you would stop that. You would have to, for sure, do away with glass, and you'd have to put big steel plate in there. And I'm not even sure how. I mean, these things might go through 2 inches of hardened steel plate, so it becomes impractical, you know. So there's a limit to all that. But, you know, my point is Mexico's run by the drug cartels. The drug cartels are in cahoots with these Russia, China, countries like that. They buy weapons from them. They trade drugs for weapons and other things. They use them with money laundering schemes. They work for them. They do jobs for them. And, you know, for the big countries, you know, they get along quite well. Quite well. So, then they're running Mexico. So, they're not shutting the border down. They don't care about the border. They think it's great. And now Mexico's going to give them weapons. I don't know what kind of weapons and how many, but how is the United States going to have stop Mexican missiles from coming in? It's very difficult, like Israel stopping Hezbollah in Gaza and Syria. America doesn't have anti-missile systems all over their country. No way. What if Putin gives them tanks? Good ones. Then when they want to come through the wall, they just go with the tanks. The tanks will knock the wall down, I think. So, you know, it's a real, now, if they use those big concrete pillar walls that Israel does, where they attach them to each other, and they go down, I think, probably 15, 20 feet in the ground, the tank's not going to knock that over. Not by ramming it. If the tank took a distance run of a mile or two and built up a speed of 35, 40 miles an hour and rammed it, maybe, but they'd probably really kill or damage the crew in the tank. So the way a tank would go through those concrete walls would be to start hitting it with artillery and make a hole and then drive through, you know. Okay, so let me tell you what's happening to America. America's working with the Muslims, with Hamas, with the Muslim terrorists. And Israel is surrounded. It's called the siege. We're getting attacked from the north, Lebanon. We're getting attacked from the southwest, Gaza. We're getting attacked from south, Houthis. We're getting attacked from the east, Syria and Iraq. So America is now facing having the same thing happen to them. From Cuba, Venezuela, so-so, come see, come saw. And from the oceans. And other places now, Mexico, you know, so they're going to have a similar situation because they're behind what's happening to Israel. They're helping it. So Biden went to the UN Security Council yesterday and they had a vote and they said, yeah, they were approving the resolution for ceasefire that Biden submitted. 15 members of the Security Council, 14 voted in favor, and Putin did not veto, he abstained. So it went through. But it's not an enforcement action. It's urging Hamas to accept this peace offer, which they're saying Israel accepted. Israel is saying they didn't accept it. So Biden's up to no good here. Hamas is probably not going to accept it because it calls for releasing hostages for a temporary ceasefire, and they don't want that. So what happens if Hamas doesn't accept this? Well, what's Biden's next move? His next move is to go for enforcement. He goes back to the UN Security Council and he says they're not playing ball. So I'm moving for a motion of enforcement. Where they go in with the UN forces and impose the ceasefire. Now, putting sanctions on Hamas is stupid. It's not going to go anywhere. So then they're also going to use the UN forces to tell Israel to get out of Gaza. And we're just going to make the ceasefire happen. We're a little bit away from that right now, but I expect it. I am most certain Hamas is not going to agree to this. Hamas is basically saying, no hostages back. I want my prisoners in the Israeli jail, those terrorists, given to us at a ratio of about 100-1. And this is only going to happen if it's for a permanent ceasefire, where we keep our weapons, we stay in control, and Israel's completely out of Gaza. And I don't think Biden asked for that, and I don't think Israel's gonna, let what's going on there hold water. They're not gonna play ball with it either. So the UN forces may come in to enforce the ceasefire on both sides. This we don't know, this we have to watch. It could be a put-up job. And Hamas just turns around and says, yeah, okay, we accept it. And then Israel says they don't. Now a UN military force could be brought in to impose its will on Israel. So I don't think that's the case, though. I think they're going to reject it. So what you got is the nations getting together at the UN and taking votes and telling God that they are intending to continue to run Israel and any other country. It's a little premature to see how this is going to finish, but it doesn't look encouraging at all. It looks like Biden is desperate. The Houthis, Iran, Russia, NATO, China, and Asia Pacific, and North and South Korea, and he's just scared to death right now. And he figures his best move is to put extreme pressure on Israel, because that's a lot easier and safer than, say, putting extreme pressure on Iran or the Houthis or something of that nature. That's frightening to him. Okay? So he's, throwing Israel under the bus, that's all. The Saudis, it's expected to, today or tomorrow or something like that, sign a new mutual defense pact with America. So it looks like America pulled Saudi back into into their camp I don't know how. Nobody's going to tell us, but the Lord knows. I believe you have already reached the end of the age. Yeah, I'd say maybe a few weeks away, but I tend to agree with that statement. Okay. I don't think America's surrounded by Russian subs, but there's at least one in Cuba. I have not heard anything about the Shayelet getting captured or eliminated in the tunnel. They're very active. There's quite a few in Shayelet. They're like Navy SEALs. They're beach and water fighters. Well, I think Noah in the chat is opposed to us, but trying to behave like he likes us by putting flags up of Israel flags, but I don't think he's. I think he's trying to spread statements, propaganda against us that are not real. Shayelet was not destroyed. Now he's talking about the Holocaust. So. Okay, that's the situation that you got going on in the world, and it's pretty grim. I mean, when you look at it. Now, let's get into the Bible work, okay? The nations do not want to see God run the world through Israel. They want to see Satan continuing to run the world like he has done for 2,000 years. And they think that they could get together in places like the UN and vote. And what they vote and what their consensus agrees on is going to come to pass, as if God is going to listen to them. Okay? That's like the pottery trying to tell the potter what to do. And it just doesn't work. And God's not putting up with it, okay? Watching is what Yeshua told you to do, watch and pray. What we do here when we cover the current events is we're watching. You pray also, I'm sure. And then when we get right down to it, we'll lift our head up because our redemption draweth nigh. And we're going to cover that today, for those that may not know it. Okay, let me delete some things from my notes that I covered, so I don't have to. Now, this is the problem that the people that are educated by the church and the Bible commentaries and the websites and all this other stuff miss. Okay? Hosea 6, 1 and 2, which I'll read to you. It's rather brief. And this explains God's plan for Israel quite clearly, but it's hidden from the people. Come and let us return unto Jehovah. So it's speaking of Israel. For he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days, now we stop here, and it does say 2 days. The words are Shnaim, no, I'm sorry, min from, so it's not saying you have to say it's from. No, wait a minute. Let me see. Let me look at this in the Hebrew and get it straight. I don't know what the translation's trying to do here. Where is my Hebrew Old Testament? There it is. Okay. No, I'm in the wrong verse. Okay. I think I'm in verse 2. Wasn't I in 2? Yes. Okay. Yekono. So it's saying Chaya. I don't think it's saying that. Why are they saying it says that? Translation is skewered here, isn't it? Let's see. It says live. I don't think so. It's vague here. Well, you see, we get an indication here the words are kind of rough in Hebrew. This is Old Testament Hebrew. It's hard to work with. Yechoni, they're saying, the translators are saying that this is meaning to live or have life. I don't know where they're getting this from. They're saying it's related to Kaya, and I don't get it at all. To revive, that I understand. So it's revive and mean. This seems to be 2 days. I mean, yeah, I'm stumbling with this. Yom comes, so I would think it probably, I'm confused with their first word, but it could be correct. So it was saying life 2 days, and then it says clearly the third. So I would say, yeah, it does say 2 days. It's a tough translation. To rise, to chayal, to life, to face him. Boy, this I gotta grant them is not an easy translation. I tell you that. Let me see if any of the English translations deal with it correctly. The American Standard, I think, got it reasonably right. After 2 days will he revive us. On the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live before him. Well, the punim is his face, and then you put it in English that way. It's not really that bad of a translation, to be honest with you. Because it plainly says the third day there, which means it's following the second day. So I'm quite sure it means the second day. Is there anybody else I could find here that has any intelligent translation? Let's see. It's a hard translation. It's just real old biblical Hebrew. It's not easy. Yeah, I think they got it relatively correct. I'm pretty sure of it. So this means that for 2 days, and remember Peter said, with the Lord a day is like 1,000 years, okay? And 1,000 years like a day. Peter said that. So the punishment here on Israel is not 48 hours or 2 days. 1,000 years is like a day, and a day is like 1,000 years. It's a 2,000-year punishment on the Israelites. Now, when would this punishment have started? That's the million-dollar question. But I know it's over right now. I mean, we're in the end of it. We're in the year of recompenses now, and the latest that'll be over is around August 1st, give or take a few days. But last year in 2023, when the Lord told me we're in the year of recompenses, it was about the 1st of August, give or take a few days. And that we could have been in it before August. He never gave me the exact date because I don't think he wants me teaching precisely to the day and the hour. I'm going to take a break and we'll go dig deeper into this. So the $1 million question is, when did this punishment start? Was it when they killed Yeshua, or was it when the temple was burned by the Romans in 70 AD? That's the big question, isn't it? I've never been able to isolate a scripture telling me when Yeshua was killed. Okay? The Bible doesn't give us any precision way of doing that I, in 40-something years, have been able to discern. I have no idea. You go into the people on the internet and they'll tell you something like 30 AD, 33 AD. If we play with it, it's simple to defeat it. Here you go, 30 AD. You go 2,000 years, so that takes you to 2030. But the problem is, when these prophecies were written, Pope Gregory, who created the Gregorian calendar, was not alive, let alone a Gregorian calendar, so they were just using the Bible calendar. And a Bible calendar has 12 360-day months, 12 30-day months, or 360 days to comprise a year. So for 2,000 years, we got to knock off 5 days a year, or 10,000 days, which is, I think, 27-something years. So if we went with 30 AD, we would have seen this happen around 2003. Sorry, it didn't happen. If we go to 2033, then it would have happened in 2007. Sorry, it didn't happen. So their theories I've just defeated. Okay? So if we wanted, I've never bothered doing this because I don't like doing things like this because it's easy to make a mistake. So if we wanted to do it, we'd work it back and say from 2024, go back 2,000 years, but we'd have to go back 2,000 years of 360 days to get it on a Bible path. Did you get your phone fixed?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Did he give you a new antenna or just moved it around?
Yeah, he showed me part was only soldered on one arm.
Ah, okay. Let me go shut the door. So, the 30 AD, the 33 AD, all those things make no sense. So they're all wrong. Or it would line up with Hosea 6, 1, and 2. Now, the year of recompenses is not Hosea 6, 1, and 2. It's not Hosea 6, 2. It's still kind of like in the old days, but the enemies are getting punished. Well, let's look at that. Gaza is a garbage dump. The soldiers that are down there walking around this stuff are saying things like this. It would take, now they're not experts at rubbish removal, but they're not idiots, you know. They said it would take years just to pull the rubble out of Gaza. 80, 85, probably now 90% of the houses are either damaged or destroyed. Houses, apartments, also stores, government buildings. The sidewalks, the roads, the traffic lights, the electricity, the sewage, the water lines, everything. Everything. Hamas is living in the Roach hotels, you know, the tunnels. They're trying to perpetrate a fraud on the world that they're winning. You gotta be a candidate for a prison for the mentally insane to say that. America is running around behaving like they're still the hammer of the whole earth and the great voice, to quote out of Jeremiah 50:51 for the daughter of Babylon. They're not. They are running away with their tail between their legs with the Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier. Biden is run with fear. Reuters ran a video that, could you stop scratching on the mat, please? Hey, no more. You're not digging in the mat. Okay. They said that the Democrats may not run Biden. He can be that deteriorated. There's a June 27th debate. Trump is adamantly screaming he wants drug tests and mental competency tests on himself and Biden. Obviously, he'll pass. He seems to be, 16 times better condition than Biden. So Trump would go out, I think, and he may do this, have 2 or 3 doctors that are reputable, like they're on, chief of staffs at hospitals or something like that, test him on a cognitive test and run blood work on his, what kind of drugs he's got. Or he might just do a cognitive test. Probably just that. Or maybe just one, and then say, look, here's my cognitive test. Biden won't do it. He can't even think straight. He can't. Blinken, Sullivan, Austin, and others are calling the shots. Some people say Obama's calling the shots with these people that used to work for him when he was president. 75% of the Biden staff, his key people, the cabinet, worked for Obama when he was president. So Obama might be running them, or at least we know Obama trained them. So the explanation seems somewhat credible, because we can't imagine how Biden could function. He can't find his way off the stage. He talks gibberish in public. When he's at the podium, and how could he be making these decisions? He wouldn't be able to comprehend what to do. Okay? So now they're talking they might not run him. Well, we're in June, so you got, let's say, July, August, September, October, Yeah, to be fair, you got about 4 months to the election. Could they swap them out for somebody else? Yeah, they could, of course. Uh, if they really wanted to lose, they'd run Kamala Harris. That's a joke. That person would not get more than maybe 15% or something. It wouldn't work. So I don't know who they would run. Would they run Blinken or Sullivan? Not Sullivan, maybe Blinken, but he's not been groomed for presidency. He's not. I don't think he's a candidate. I don't know who they have. I don't know who they would run. Trump had a major victory in 2 of his, I believe, federal cases where they were pushed off. Apparently, Trump was saying, "I don't want to, have to deal with this or run for the presidency. It's politically motivated to stop me from being able to conduct my campaign, and like I'm not a flight risk. I'm not going anywhere. Let's just put it to put it on hold until after the election." So, 2 of his federal cases, I understand, went that way. So that means he's whittling it down. The civil stuff he doesn't care about. Believe me, he doesn't care one way or the other. I mean, he cares, but it's not anything of any paramount importance, then believe me. We yet do not know if the judge is going to call his case with the 34 felony convictions a mistrial because of improper jury procedures, not sequestering them and so forth. So the judge did send a warning letter to both sides, the prosecution and the defense, that it was on official letterhead that they're looking into it. And if he sent a warning letter like that, it would tell me that the judge was reasonably sure there was going to be a mistrial from the appellate court, New York State Supreme Court. Or he would never have written the letter. I think he examined the facts superficially and said, uh-oh, we got a problem. People were posting in social media before jury deliberations that, my cousin's on the jury and she's basically saying they're going to convict Trump. So they investigate, they find out this is really a cousin of the person, they probably interviewed the person, and realized that the jury was not sequestered and this probably happened. Also, the jurors were talking amongst themselves, which is another way, the legal way of saying that, is the jury was deliberating before deliberations. In other words, all the evidence wasn't in. All the testimony, all the evidence was not in, and they're talking about the case amongst themselves, which are probably pretty friendly. The one's going, yeah, this Trump's a dirty dog, look what he did, yeah, I think you're right, he is guilty, before they heard everything. And if you had a sequestered jury, you wouldn't have this. The jury would be told when they go into jury chambers. In other words, you're at a trial and the judge wants to cover some things with the attorneys, and he doesn't want the jury to hear it. So he asks the jury to go in jury chambers, and then they're reminded not to discuss the case amongst themselves at this time because the case isn't over. And they go into the chambers, and there might be 1 or 2 court officers in there with them. And, they can have a sandwich, they can make a phone call usually. Did Johnny come home from school? Let me talk to him. Hi, how'd you do on your geography test? Are you going for ball game practice with the Little League today? Small talk. And they might keep them off the television and off the internet, so they don't get any ideas formed in their head before the case is finished. Okay, this is a big case. 34 felony counts. You could put Trump in jail for the rest of his life easily. So it's objective raw data that there was no sequestered jury, so they went home every night to watch the TV, watch the internet, discuss the case with people amongst themselves and strangers and family members and get their bias and their opinions. So the judge heard all this, he saw the social media, and I think the judge said, well, I gotta have proof of this. So he has somebody investigating to get the proof of it. I don't know who he's using to investigate this. Normally the court officers are not trained in this. They're bodyguards, and they know how to operate in a courtroom, but I don't think they're investigators. So I don't know who the heck he used. He probably found somebody. So when he gets his evidence together, he can't do this just on supposition. He's a judge. He has to have evidence. And evidence could be testimony and stuff like that. When he has the evidence together, then he'll make a ruling based on the evidence. He finds that there was, errors with the jurors, and therefore it's a mistrial. And he vacates the judgment, so like it never happened. So all of a sudden, in one sweep of the pen, Trump is no longer a felon. And then the prosecution is, so it's basically like the trial never happened. The decision to make Trump a felon never happened. The whole thing never happened. Start over again. But it did happen. And Trump knows all the evidence from the other side. And the other side was preventing Trump from putting evidence in, testimony of expert witnesses and things like that. So if the prosecution decides they want to retry the case, and to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure they would. Okay? There's things they could do. They could go to Trump and tell him to plead guilty to a felony, and they'll give him, a 4-year suspended sentence or something stupid like that. He won't do it. They might ask him to plead to a misdemeanor. He probably wouldn't do that either. He's got them running now. He knows their case. The other thing is this. The chances of them being able to get the case to trial before the election right now is about 0. Okay? It's a big case. The other thing Trump would undoubtedly do is move with the judge, file a motion for change of venue. And he would also ask the judge to recuse himself as well. The judge at this point would be likely to recuse himself just to get out of the heat, But Trump's also, then the new judge would hear the motion to change the venue. And then it would go to some place, probably upstate New York, probably at least 100 or 200 miles away from New York City. So the prosecution would be presenting their case far from New York City, which is a big drain on them. They got to take their staff and their files and their paralegals and their clerks and put them in hotels and stay up there, Sunday night to Friday night. That's a burden. Okay? And a lot of New York State is not like New York City. They're more rednecky up there. They got guns, they can have guns, they can get gun permits much easier. Way much easier. Than New York City. They go to shooting ranges, and they got preppers and survivalists. They're not like New York City area. They would have to go, I would say, a minimum of 100 miles out of New York City to get this to work. But I mean, he might go up near Albany or, someplace, Buffalo, really far away. And Albany and Buffalo are like completely different worlds. I've been there, different worlds compared to New York City. You're in this state, but it's like being in a different world. Okay? Everything is different. So the chances of Trump winning a motion to change the venue are very high. And not only would it be a great expense to run the case now out of New York State, it wouldn't come to trial before the election. And after the election, I mean, there's not going to be enough time for an election, but hypothetically, if it was, and Trump won, which he probably would if prophetic time allowed, and became president, he would get the courts to postpone the trial because he is president and he's got pressing problems, and push it off to after he's out of office. And by then the case would be so cold, it'd be like a cold dead fish on ice, you know, with the witnesses and, you know, stuff like that. The other thing Trump could do when he's president is just get on TV and tell the people, listen, I've got to protect the country against China, Russia, blah, 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 so I pardon myself on all these cases just to get rid of it so I can take care of you and rebuild America. Instead of listening to these harassments. He could do that too. So I don't see the prosecutor retrying the case if the change of venue goes through. If the judge says, I'm not going to recuse myself, and the change of venue gets turned down by the appellate court, then he can take it to the Supreme Court, and if that gets turned down, then his trial begins. But guess what? By then, it's election day. So my opinion is the judge is likely going to reverse, well, he's going to call for a new trial and cancel the old trial and vacate the judgment, and it'll never come to pass. Well, of course, prophetic time won't allow, but that's that. Trump ain't going to be president, as I see it. No time. So they might substitute a new candidate for Biden, but that's irrelevant. No time for that. Okay? So Biden's probably going down with the ship. Okay, so that's what's Hosea 6:1-2 is saying. For 2,000 years, Israel is going to be punished for what they did, which would be kill the Messiah. And time's up. Not today, maybe, but soon. Year of recompenses. Gaza's a mess. It's a fiction that they're winning. It's destroyed. Their homeland is trashed. Okay? Now let's talk about Lebanon. Is their homeland trashed? No. Does prophecy tell us something? Yes. Lebanon, open your doors, let the cedars of Lebanon burn. Is Lebanon going to get devastated like Gaza? No. Is Lebanon going to get a butt whooping? Yes. Hezbollah for sure. Has it happened yet? Not really. Will it? Yeah. What Hezbollah really wants to do, this is their golden dream, is infiltrate through the lines and grab hundreds of hostages and take them back to Lebanon. Are they going to be able to do that? No. It's absurd to think they're going to be able to do that. Okay? I don't believe it'll happen. They'll try, they already tried, but it's not going to get anywhere. They had October 7th was an insider job. That's why it worked. There's not going to be another insider job right now, and it's not going to work. You know, one of the hostages was talking and said that she was made to do housework every day. So not only did these psychiatric prison candidates, Hamas, you know, you gotta understand, they are criminally insane. Like serial killers, seriously. They torture people, they cut fetuses out of children, put babies in ovens, raped the women so much they died with broken pelvic bones, and then they raped them after they were dead, and they raped the men. What kind of nonsense is that? And you know, they're crazy. You gotta get this down. They're mentally ill. Big. Okay? So they're acting like they're winning. What a nonsense thing this is. It's nonsense. So they're going to get busted up too. They're really harassing Israel, and there's a point where Israel's going to break out. What is going on now is Biden is telling Israel behind the scenes, calm down, I'm trying to get this thing done. I'm going to the UN. If they don't want to comply, I'll go back to the UN. We'll try to get an enforcement resolution on Hamas. We'll send soldiers in there. We'll occupy Hamas and force the war to stop. The UN soldiers won't let them shoot missiles. They won't let smuggling go on. You'll be okay. They'll be there. They'll be happy. They can't shoot you, blow you up, or kill you. You could send your soldiers back to their families. And this is the party line that Biden's feeding them, okay? And it's just not going to work. Everything Biden does doesn't work these days, right? Go take a look. Nothing works because he's doomed. He's striving against Jehovah. The nations, God says he laughs at them. They imagine a vain thing. They think it means something with God, that they all get together in the UN and vote for something and they expect it to come to pass. They think being with Satan is something that elevates their posture. They don't understand the 2,000-year punishment on Israel. Neither does the church. Believe me, 99.99999% of the church doesn't know what you're talking about with that. There are a handful of people that are aware of the scripture, but they don't know what the heck you're talking about, and they can't apply it correctly. I never saw it really used right. So the recompense is they're getting their head handed to them, okay? Now, this is what you got to understand. God destroys Washington, D.C., the seat of the Whore of Babylon, so to speak, in an hour, in a day, okay? It gets destroyed by fire very, very quickly, okay? Now, there's people in ships far away from the city, so they're probably out in the ocean, watching not just Washington, D.C. burn, but I assume the whole country, and they're mourning. See, at ports in America and other countries too, ships back up and they stay offshore a couple of miles, waiting for their turn to come in and offload their cargo, container ships and grain and liquids, fuel and things like that. To offload it into the port, they have to wait for their turn, and sometimes they're there for literally could be 2-3 weeks more. So the crew basically stays on board, and they don't have much to do. Instead of working 14 hours a day or whatever, they probably work 3 or 4 hours a day because the ship's not moving. But they could take that time to paint the deck and the sides of the boat, and so they probably keep them busy. But I don't think they work very hard when they're not at sea. I don't think there's that much to do. Maybe they work an 8-hour day, maybe, And I don't think they get shore leave because they might when they pull up to the dock and they're actually offloading, and then the guys can walk off the boat onto the pier. Their merchant marine cards give them a visa of a sort, right? So as long as their boat is docked, they can go ashore. So what's a typical is the boat would probably be there for 2 days, maybe 4 days. So they could walk off the boat, get a taxi at the pier, and go shopping where they could buy stuff cheap. Toiletries, clothing, electronics, things like this, right? Make phone calls, take money out with ATM cards. A lot of the ships pay the guys by putting money on their bank account so they could take it on a Visa or a MasterCard. So some ships I understand have an ATM machine on the boat that they could use, but what would be the point of using cash on the boat? It doesn't make sense. It's probably that if they get into a port that wouldn't have decent ATM machines or something like that, maybe they were in China or in a rural area or something like that, or Afghanistan, and they want to go ashore, they could go pull euros or US dollars and, you know, buy things with that in the country. So, but normally they would run to get on shore and go to a bank ATM machine to get money. The conversion rate and the fees would be much lower. Also, they can send money home. They run to a Western Union or a MoneyGram and send money back to their family. So then they go to a drugstore and they'll buy, you know, different things, suntan lotion or whatever, and they'll go to the mall and they'll go eat and they'll, you know, they'll run around and do stuff, right? Okay. And they're going to go back and sleep on the boat. Most of them don't have the money to go get a hotel, but some might, the captain or the officers, who knows? So they could get off the boat, you know. So. Anyway, so the Hosea 6:1 and 2 missing out of the doctrines of the 2 billion people going to the churches, the Christian, Pentecostal, Evangelical, Catholic, and all of that is about 2 billion people. That's missing in all their doctrines, just about. Okay? They don't understand it. And it's over. It's right at the end. Yeshua paid the price for your sins, but it hasn't really been realized yet because of this punishment. Now, we know the congregations were flourishing after Yeshua died, you know, and you had what they call Pentecost, and they got the Holy Spirit. The Messianic congregations for a spell were doing well, but they had to leave Jerusalem, and then came the attack on Jerusalem, and Israel got scattered around the world, and to this day, they're still scattered around the world. So, the only way I could tell you to figure out when it happened, when the punishment began, is to go work it back from, you know, 2024 or 23, go back 2,000 biblical years. And that might be the time it began, which might make it the time that Yeshua was killed. But I have not done that. I don't know the point, and I don't know why I should do that. Well, I know we're in year recompenses, and the latest it's going to run to is the very first few days of August, and that's it. And I have a feeling it's going to be over a lot sooner than that. God is merciful, and He shortened the time. That's why it's going to happen suddenly at the end. It's not going to be a great big drawn-out war. Okay? It makes us think it'll be that way. But for NATO and Russia to destroy each other would take months. Okay? I don't think it's going to happen. And also, Israel's going to wind up getting destroyed if this was going down. What will happen is they will invade the United States, and they will destroy the United States. And they'll loot, plunder, and pillage and kill the people. That they're going to do. But it doesn't tell us that's going to happen in the nations. What we do learn from the nations in Jeremiah 30, which is Jacob's trouble, which is Zechariah 12, which has already begun. We're in the siege now. Lebanon is sieging us. Turkey's not trading with us. Gaza is sieging us. Syria, you can't go in and out of Syria, and they're not letting things in or out, and occasionally rockets come from their militias at us. Iraq, too. Yemen. You know, it's not complete. Jordan's not in on it. You need Jordan to get in on it. And it'll happen. They can't surround Jerusalem. Tip of my fingers, Jerusalem. This is the West Bank. It's around Jerusalem on three sides. And the West Bank is controlled by the Israeli military, so that needs to change one way or the other. The people in the West Bank could run amok. People in Jordan that hate Israel could break the walls down and come in and do it. Or there could be a two-state solution, or who the heck knows what. There's already 2.5 million to 4 million Muslims living in the West Bank. We don't even know how many there are there. And you maybe have 500,000 Israelites living there. Seems incredibly short timing-wise for there to be a two-state solution, because it would be bantied around for weeks. So I'm not seeing that right now. When you stop and think about it, it doesn't seem possible. But they could say they're going to go back to the UN mandates. So in other words, that would basically get us out of the Golan Heights, get us out of the West Bank. The Golan Heights with Syria, on the Syria side, it could happen. Then there wouldn't be any debates about anything. It's already been decided years ago in the UN. It's just not been enforced. We're enforcing it. They're going to do anything to stop Israel. Why? Because Satan's going to do anything to stop Israel. And these people are his servants, his disciples. They love him. And they will do whatever it takes to keep him in power. And then they maintain their status as the elite. It's a joke. They're going to fail. And the reason for the delay is because of the punishment on Israel, where he turned us over to our enemies. And these idiots serving Satan don't realize. Satan tells them he beat God when he killed the Messiah. And they believe it, and they don't understand what happened. They will probably never understand what happened, unless someone explains it to them, and I don't know who will. So they don't have it. They don't got it. So they think they're going to continue to stay in power, and things are going to be like they always were. They're never going to go with that, and they're never going to revert back. Well, how wrong they are. How wrong they are. So we're in the end of the age now. Now this is what I'm going to show you, and you're not hearing this from other people. I wish you were hearing it from other people. I wish there was 25,000 people teaching this elsewhere, but it's not the case. We'll go through a few scriptures. Matthew 13:39. Starting at 39. The enemy that's, okay, this is the seed with the sower, and they ask Yeshua to give him the interpretation. Really need to go back to Matthew 13:36. Then Yeshua sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. That's Yeshua. The field is the world. Now, this is not the land of Israel. This is the world. The word is Greek number 2889, Strong's number, it's cosmos, and that means the world. That's what it means, okay? The good seed are the children of the kingdom. Those are the believers. But the children of the wicked one, the tares are the children of the wicked one. The wicked one is Satan, the demons. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, it says. They did this on purpose to mess with you. The word is Greek 165, aion, A-I-O-N. Okay? It's the age. It's not world. It's a time It's a word that means time. It's an age, it's not a world. Okay, this is a complete mistranslation. Because Strong says properly an age. Okay? You see, what they're doing by end of the world, they're making you think this is after the millennium, after Satan's released, and Father God Jehovah comes down and burns up the whole universe. And then you meet him on the air and go to the clouds of heaven, to the third heaven, to be with him for eternity. They're trying to make you think this is it. And it's not. It's for these days today. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age. And the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this age. The Son of Man will send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do lawlessness, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let them hear. Okay, I'll give you a scripture to show you where that is. It's easy. This stuff is easy. It's not really hard prophecy. You just got to be willing to believe what your Bible says. Isaiah 61, arise, shine, for thy light is come. There it is, shine. And the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. That's going to happen very quickly. Okay. So, in Matthew 13, the tares are taken out by the angels. It says earlier on in Matthew 13, we'll go back there. I think 26 maybe? No, 24. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened to a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servant of the householder came, the tares appeared when they were bearing fruit, the apostles, the disciples at that time. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servants said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while you gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. Until the harvest, and in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather you together first the tares. So the bad ones are taken out first, contrary to the church lies where they say in the rapture the good are taken out first. See what I'm saying? The tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. The binding in bundles means take them to the pit to await judgment in the lake of fire. And the barn is the sheep pen, is Israel. Okay? It's the end of the age, so we're going to focus on the end of the age. Matthew 13:47. Matthew 13:47. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind, which, when it was full, they drew to shore. Which, when it was full, they drew to shore, and sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but cast the bad away. So shall it be at the end of the age. The angel shall come forth and sever the wicked from among the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Okay? That's going to happen very shortly, next few weeks, days. Okay? Get back to my notes. See, Yeshua paid the price for our sins, and he was the peace offering. The lamb is the peace offering. The steer is the sin offering. But you're not going to have peace with God without getting rid of the sins. And Yeshua definitely did get rid of the sins, but it's not manifest in reality yet in its fullness. Okay, but it shortly will be, because the punishment has to be complete. And I believe when we finish the year of recompenses, we'll immediately, or maybe a day off or something like that, be in the year of redemption. I think there's an overlap. The day of vengeance is in both years. The last day, I think it would be the last day of, maybe the last day of recompenses and the first day of redemption. Or there could be a bigger overlap. There could be a 10 or 20 day overlap. I don't know. But the key is that 2,000-year punishment. So the eternal life, which is not immortality, you can die. It just means you live a very, very long time, like before the flood, only probably twice as long. And no diseases, illness, or imperfections and stuff like that. And that's going to come as a result of the sins being removed by Yeshua a long time ago. So Yeshua paid the price for our sins, and it's not yet revealed what we're going to be like as sons of God, but it shortly will be, because we had this 2,000-year punishment, and that's how Satan used it to defeat, well, to disorient and confuse his servants. He's the father of lies. See, you get a hint of this in Matthew 25:5. Most wouldn't realize this, though. But I'll show it to you. Because the Lord showed it to me. That's where I got it. While this is the 10 virgins, you know. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps, while the bridegroom tarried. They all slumbered and slept. Okay, while the bridegroom tarried. That's your 2,000 years. The bridegroom's Yeshua, he tarried. And, you know, since it's the wedding feast, it actually is going to be a bigger period of time until the tribulation is over, when he comes back to earth. So that's you tarry, and the other people slumbered and slept. Many of them are not watching. When you're slumbering and sleeping, you're not watching. There's many people that don't like doing what I put you through with the current events. No, I just read my Bible and I pray and I try to be a light and I try to be, you know, happy and, you know, help people and all that. And that's not what Yeshua told you to do. I mean, he did tell you to do all that, but he said, occupy till I come. And he said, watch. Because you're not going to know unless you watch. And then you got to lift your head up because your redemption draweth nigh. You got to see him. And you got to be a believer at that time. And we'll cover that very quickly today. A few minutes. Okay. Matthew 24:22. I'm going to start building the case here a little bit for you. 24:22. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Because he loves you. That's why everything's happening at the end. Like when America gets hit and he destroys the nations, you know, the day of vengeance. He's going to destroy the nations, Jeremiah 30:11. He's going to destroy all the nations he scattered the Israelites into. And it's also in Jeremiah 46, verse 28. It's in two places. It's going to happen, associated with the birth pangs, birth of the nation. In a day, it appears he burns these countries up. Okay, somebody wrote me that Hamas official says they accept the ceasefire resolution from the UN. So this is Biden's plan to punish Israel and destroy it or get it destroyed. So they accept it. Now they put it on Israel and Israel will not accept it. Then come the troops. Rejoice. It's getting closer. It has to happen. Israel's going to do, America's going to do evil to Israel in our sight. It's going to happen. Be glad. Be happy. You can't save the ungodly. They have rejected Yeshua. They've rejected the Bible. They've rejected doctrine. They just want to chase their tails and, you know, be unbelievers, and many of them say they are believers, but they behave as unbelievers. So they don't have good gospel. They don't follow the true gospel. So it has to happen. These nations will not submit to the Lord, no matter how much He leans on them and show. They just won't. It has to happen. And the sooner it happens, the better for us. You want to go through another 20 or 30 years of living in countries run by the Satanists? Are you serious? Has the last 20 years of your life as a believer been pleasant? I wouldn't want to live there. Don't worry, you'll be fine. God's not out to hurt you. You're going to learn how powerful Jehovah really is. Super powerful. You can't measure his power, it's infinite. You couldn't tell how much power he has. You couldn't comprehend it. So the reason everything is waiting till it comes to the end is because of the mercy that God's putting out for you. Because he loves you and he worries about you. And I tell you the truth now, he's watching things now so closely. Maybe he did all along, I don't know, but I'll tell you, he's watching everything very closely and carefully now. And he does not make mistakes. Matthew 19:29. And everyone that hath forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold, and shall inherit everlasting life. There it is, your everlasting life. It's also eternal life, but there's still death. So for the gospel's sake, you may have already left your house or your family or something like that, or you soon will. And you receive 100-fold. You're going to all be very wealthy. You're going to get money from the countries you're going out from, like the Israelites did from Egypt, and you're going to come here, you're going to get land for free, probably houses for free, you'll have servants, slaves. You'll be very wealthy. And you'll have eternal life. No ailments, no sickness, no disease, no knee or ankle or hearing problems or spine problem or anything like that. None of that. Mark 10:29. Now I'm going to put the timing together for this in a moment. Just another minute or two, and I'll do that. Mark 10:29. And Yeshua answered and said, Verily I say unto you, there is no man that hath left house, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my sake and the gospel's, but he shall receive 100-fold now in this time, houses, and brethren and sisters and mothers and children and lands, with persecution, and in the age to come eternal life. So there's the eternal life. Now, when does this happen? All right. It's not hard. You go to Zechariah 12. Forget Gog and Magog. That happens way down the road. probably 60 something years from now. Israel's living at peace and at rest with great wealth, cattle, gold, silver, no bars, no walls. Forget that. That's not today. We're getting rocket attacked all the time. Forget it. It's down the road. Okay? It's down the road. You go to Zechariah 12 and just read it. It says, the burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in this siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. I told you about that. A siege is a surrounding, and then they attack, and then eventually they would invade if it gets that far, which it won't. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, lacerated, sliced, and diced. Though all the people of the land, or the earth, I think, be gathered together against it. This is beginning. It started already. I'm going to take a fast break and we'll finish it. Think about it. Lebanon, Gaza, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Iran, Russia's in Syria. Think about it. Think about it. It's begun. The siege is almost complete. Jordan's missing. Maybe northwest Saudi Arabia, which is, some say, is Edom, is missing. But there's not many pieces missing. A lot of the nations are going to come. Look what Biden's doing with the UN Security Council. See, it's a put-up job. Hamas agrees to it, so now the pressure comes on Israel, who can't agree to this. And then Biden attempts to get Israel destroyed. And then comes the destruction of the daughter of Babylon in Isaiah 47, Jeremiah 50, and 51, which is still not Gog and Magog, and still not the tribulation. And the nations get burned up. They get destroyed. Jeremiah 46, verse 28, and Jeremiah 30, verse 11, which is tied into the birth pangs and the birth of a nation in a day. Birth of a Nation in a Day is not May 15th, 1948. They get born again like believers do to God. And you'll see that right here. Right here. In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse. The word for horse is sus. I have a feeling, if Zechariah was saying, I'm going to smite every Humvee armored personnel carrier and Abrams tank with blindness, the people would know what the heck he's talking about. I will smite every. Did they have the word Humvee or Jeep or armored personnel carrier or a tank? No, they didn't have it back then. Biblical Hebrew does not contain those words, so the closest is what's used. I will smite, and now the word sus can also mean a swan or swallow, a bird like a swallow that flies. Could be planes and missiles. Every sus, a horse, with astonishment, and his rider with madness. And I will open my eyes upon the house of Israel. Now that is such a good thing. It means he turned his punim, his face back towards Israel, because how could he open his eyes on us if he doesn't turn his face to us? Obvious, right? And I will smite every sus, every horse of the people with blindness. So, I don't know, the radar, the guidance, whatever gets taken out, I guess. And does it mean that he made all the horses blind? I don't think they're going to come on horses. Some of these nutbags will come on horses, but I don't think it's going to be entirely horses. I'm not seeing it that way. Unless all the weapons of war are disabled between now and then, which is a possibility. Don't ever sell Jehovah short and underestimate his power. His power and his wisdom and his knowledge are infinite. It cannot be measured. You've got to get that down. You cannot measure it. You cannot fathom it. You cannot understand it. It's infinite. It doesn't have a limit. He can do whatever he wants. And the judges, it says governors, it really should read the judges, because he's going to run Israel again with the judges. It says that in Isaiah 1, where, okay, I guess some of you don't know that, so we'll go to Isaiah 1. It's going to be fast. Isaiah 1, let's see if I can get the verse. 24, let's try that. I hit it. Therefore, the old man got the verse. Therefore saith Jehovah, saith Adonai Jehovah of armies, the mighty one of Israel, I will ease me of my adversaries and avenge me of my enemies. Avenge me. That's your Jeremiah 30:11. He's going to deal with the heathen like they never heard before. That's a scripture. They never all got burned up in one day before. Watch. And I will turn my hand upon thee. That's a good thing in Bible speak. And purely purge away the dross and take away all thy tin. And I will restore thy judges as at the first. The first is Moses and Aaron. They were judges. They were also prophets. Judges of prophets. We have two prophets coming, the two witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John. And thy counselors, that's what the 70 counselors, we'll have them again. We're not going to have police departments and military and courts like now. The Levites and the Kohanim, and the Zadokites are going to be running things. We're not going to have this, we might have a sanitation department and, water and roads, but, you're not going to have the sicko stuff that Satan had us do with the nations, And I will restore thy judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed, year of redemption, with judgment. Ezekiel 34, the bad ones will be cut off. And the enemies, and our converts with righteousness. That means the non-Israelites that convert to Jehovah and Yeshua. And the destruction of the transgressors and of the sinners shall be together. So they are all going to get killed at the same time. And they that forsake the Lord shall be consumed. Look, where do you see this? It's, I told you in some places, but here, you go to Zechariah 13, which is tied to Zechariah 12. It's a continuum. Verse 8, and it shall come to pass in all the land, in Kol Haaretz, this I believe is talking about Israel, not the world, as you'll soon see, saith Jehovah, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die. That's 2/3. But the third shall be left therein. Left where? In the world? No, left in Israel, he's talking about. And I will bring the third through the fire and will refine them. We just heard him talking like that. As silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call upon my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. This is pertaining to Israel, not the world at large. Don't let the church people fool you, or the rabbis. Okay, Zechariah 12:5. Now the judges of Judah, I told you, were the 2 witnesses. Now let's watch them in action in Zechariah 12:6. In that day, this is all one day. This is, I believe, the day of vengeance. When America gets it and the nations get it, the time is short, and for our sake, God loves you and is ready to throw mercy at you like you won't believe. You won't. You'll sit there and you'll be like, I can't believe this is happening. You'll like it, but you're going to have trouble believing it. And you'll believe it because it's real, but I mean, you're going to be floored. In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. And they shall burn up all the people round about on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall remain still in her own place, even in Jerusalem. They twist it and tell you inhabit it again, as if we all ran out of Jerusalem, to make you think it's Zechariah, it's Gog and Magog or something. That's not what it says in the Hebrew. It says it twice. They burn the enemies up round about. Now, who do you know has fire coming out of their mouth? So who do you think this is? Trump and Putin or something stupid like that? That's the 2 witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John, saving the day. Jehovah also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David, now the house of David's the house of David, is contained within the tribe of Judah, but it's still the house of David. But it's not a tribe, it's, David's family, descendants. And the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day, again, it's that day, it's a day. Daughter of the Revelation 18, destruction, daughter of Babylon. It comes suddenly in a day and an hour. In that day, verse 8, Zechariah 12, shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day it happens, shall be as David. David killed Goliath. David killed a lion. David killed a bear. You ever get up close to a lion at the zoo and see how big the sucker is, let alone a bear? I mean, a grizz could be 1,400 pounds. The inhabitants of Jerusalem, he that is feeble, that means the old slumped over people that can't walk or stand right, become like David, and them among, he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. He was a great warrior, and the house of David shall be as Elohim, as the angel of the Lord before them. That was the glory of God of Israel, Michael. That was with the children of Israel in the wilderness with Moses and Aaron, and he killed like 150,000 people in one day. That's what the house of David will be like. Now, why? We'll get the explanation right away. Verse 9, and it shall come to pass in that day, I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. Seek to destroy, you could say destroy, he will destroy them. Now listen to what happens. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. Now, he poured his spirit out on the occupants of Jerusalem and the house of David. Now, it's very correct to say now they're believers. He poured his spirit out on them. What happens next? And they shall look upon me, that's Yeshua, whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. And then all the families of Israel are mourning him. That did not happen when they crucified him. Who the heck was mourning his mother, Apostle John? I mean, not the families of Israel. They look upon the one whom they have pierced. They see Yeshua. Well, where do they see Yeshua? Immediately after Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days, that's what we're reading about in Zechariah 12, the siege, shall the sun be darkened and the moon shall... No. That's not it, sorry. That's Gog and Magog, sorry. I got ahead of myself by one verse. It's 24:30. It jumps around in here. And then, this is a different, he's changing the subject. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. We just read that in Zechariah 12. It's tribes of Haaretz, the land of Israel, mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Okay? Now, what happens when they see Yeshua? I'm making this extremely simplified. Either you're going to believe the Bible or you're not. That's it. Okay? John 6:40. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. The last day is the end of the world. After Satan's released, there are no more days. That's when the rapture is. Yeshua said that 4 times, but we're not focusing on that here. I'm focusing on those that see him and believe on him will have everlasting life. And that's what just happened in Zechariah 12. He poured his spirit out on them. Now they're believers. They saw him. They got everlasting life, which is not that you can't die. It's that you live a really, really long time, more than they did before the flood, because we get a double reward. So it's definitely, I would think, enough time to make it into the millennium when you drink of the water of life and eat of the tree of life, where you'll have no death anymore in New Jerusalem. So this has already begun, Zechariah 12. You're going to see this end in the next days or maybe a few weeks. Now, you that are believers around the world will see him. Every eye shall see him, and the tribes will mourn. That's all this event that's going to happen very, 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 very soon, and then you'll come to Israel. I'm not tricking you. 1 John 3:2. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear that what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, that's not the second coming, that's appear in the clouds, like the lightning from the east to the west, seated on the right hand of power, which is his Father. the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds. When he shall appear, we shall be like him. We shall see him as he is. And every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself even as he is pure. See, the apostles knew this. They were waiting for this. Okay? Yeshua said it's not up to you. It's not to you to be given the times and the seasons. They didn't have it accurately. But they were expecting this. The church has squashed this out. As far as I know, I look around on the internet, I don't see this being preached. Yet it's all in the Bible. I just put it together for you. Of course, these are the days of Elijah who must come first, but they don't tell you how the first is going to be. Okie dokie. What did I not cover? I think I covered everything. Let me go into the chat, see if I got any questions. There's a lot of people that are just gonna, they're gonna reject knowledge. They're gonna reject the scriptures, and they're gonna go with what they read in the books and the prophecy conferences and what Pastor Mary tells them and stuff like that. It's not, it's my truth, it's the Bible. What are you telling me it's the truth, it's my truth? I'm reading it out of the Bible. "666 is something to do with the beast. I'm not concerned with the beast. The beast is way down the road. Let's be concerned with what's coming up on us pretty immediately." I don't know why they call me Satan Claus or Santa. Okay, get rid of it. Well, for the one who said, "Hey, Grandpa, how you doing? Would you like us to pray that you die young? Let us know." How am I live streaming? I'm live streaming. What do you think? Like everybody else live stream. What do you think? The true believers receive the gospel. The ones that don't. They reject it. Yeshua said, "You reject knowledge, I'll reject you." That's what Yeshua said. I put it all together for you. And that's how you do the Bible. You take pieces from the different prophets and put it together and you see the whole picture. You got to dig for it. It's not easy. So this wasn't that hard either. You got to unlearn what the bad teachers teach you, and then you relearn the real gospel. So, broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. See, many are called, but few are chosen. They hear the call, but they can't understand the scriptures. Once, perhaps 10 or 12 years before I got saved, I was coming home from college to the Bronx from Florida, and I stopped in a hotel, and I was wound up from driving and drinking coffee, and I was driving like 15 hours, 16 hours a day or something, and I had nothing to do. I'm in a hotel. I was in like $12 hotel back then. It's $15 something. There was nothing to do in the hotel. I remember I think I put a coin in the bed massage and shook the bed. So I picked the Bible up out of the bedstand drawer and I started to try to read the Bible. I didn't know what it was talking about. I put it away. And then eventually I got tired and went to sleep. I just put it away and forgot about it. Yeah. So what am I telling you? I'm telling you that they don't understand the Bible. So they go and they get a commentary or a study Bible and they interpret it from what they're taught, and they're taught bad. These are people making merchandise out of God's people. Freely you have received, freely you shall give. So that's what Yeshua said, and that's the guidelines for real ministers. You don't sell things. But people don't like to give offerings, so they tell them, well, the message from the false teachers is I'm a great one and I got all this anointing and information from God, and I'll share it to you. Buy a seat to my Bible prophecy conference, or buy my book or my DVDs. It's only $29.95 plus shipping and handling, And they make merchandise out of God's people and they sell them their lies. And they get blown up like a balloon. Oh, look at me, I'm so great. I lie to the people, they buy it. And not only that, they spend money with it, and I'm a rich guy. And they're so stupid. And they think these are the real children of God. They're not. Those are the called that hear the call, but they're not chosen. Straight and narrow is the way, the correct path, and few be that find it. And they're not sitting there listening to these false teachers and false pastors and stuff like that. Believe me, they're not. So I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife for a Pete. Wait, did I forget something? Let me think. After this happens, you, as believers, you will see him too. Every eye shall see him. And you'll be coming on the next Exodus, the big Exodus to Israel. But it's a stop in the wilderness, and then you come to Israel. So you can read Jeremiah 16, Jeremiah 23, and Ezekiel 20, starting at verse 33. I can't go through all that now. It'll make the video too long, and it's too much in one time. I got through what I wanted to get through today. And how long would you be in the wilderness? Not 40 years, probably 40 days or something like that. Not long. So I believe the appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds is the beginning of the year of redemption, which is probably going to happen on the day of vengeance, which is in the redemption year and the recompenses year. You could read, to get this, Isaiah 34 verse 8, Isaiah 61, the first 3 or 4 verses, and Isaiah 63, the first 3, 4, 5, 6 verses. You'll get it there. It's in one other place too, but I don't have that one committed to memory. So I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife for a peace, safety, calm. She's, it's stressful with the missiles and rockets. I tend to not be bothered by it, but it disturbs her. Pray we don't have to go into bomb shelters, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for our finances, and pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues. They be happy, healthy, and whole. And give Chief a prayer. He needs some help with his health. And Yafa had some pest infestation that we got rid of, but she's got residual scabs or something. So pray that she gets better too. So prayer for Chief and Yafa for healing would be good. Okay? And thank you for the prayers for me. Thank you for the offerings. And what else can I tell you? I'm getting through these long ones pretty good. That red light therapy works on me. So what else? I guess that's what I gotta accomplish today. I'll keep updating you on Telegram. If something really blows up, I'll do emergency live streams on YouTube as well, and then I post them on Telegram. This is pretty serious what's going on with Hamas accepting the Biden UN ceasefire. I don't think it's something Israel's going to want to do unless it's not that bad and it's just a temporary ceasefire. I got to get into more of the details, but it looks like Biden is setting Israel up, and he wants to get rid of Netanyahu and put Gantz in his place, it looks like. And Gantz is different than Netanyahu, but they're both no good, believe me. You know, what do you want to, what do you want to take, arsenic or strychnine? Same result, death. They're no good, the both of them. Okay, so time is very short, and I think I conveyed to you why this is going to happen in that day, the day of vengeance. It's a day, Yom. It's a day. And you're going to learn how powerful Jehovah is. He's going to do it in one day because he loves us. He loves his children. He doesn't want to put us through this big, long, drawn-out, miserable thing. So I don't see how the nations could destroy each other in one day. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to kill everybody in the nations. He's going to ruin their nations. They're not going to be able to live there. They're going to have to go into captivity. Who do you know that once upon a time, about 2,000 years ago, had their capital city burned and had to go into captivity? Let's see, what did you call them? Oh, Israel. What happened with the Babylonians? With Solomon's temple, they burned it then too. You see, they reap what they sow. They reap what they sow. And they're trying to be like the clay telling the potter what to do. Doesn't work. Satan was the God of this age, and this age is closing out. And the sign of that is the eternal life. And you see that by putting Zechariah 12, especially verse 10 and verse 6 together with John 6:40 and 1 John 3:2, and then you have it right there on a silver platter. If you receive it. Hope you're enjoying the days of Elijah, and I'm out. Let's see how long I went. Well, just about 3 hours. Okay, kids. I send my shalom to those who love Yeshua HaMashiach.